If dinosaurs and humans lived together, then we should see evidence of this in ancient artwork. A remote tribe living in the Amazon rainforest told of a large creature that sounded like one of the sauropods. Natives apparently depicted this creature in their historic pictographs. We interview one of the researchers. This is a Genesis Week special report. And welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the Origins controversy, made possible by the supporters of CORE Ottawa, Citizens for Origins Research and Education. Excellence in pirate broadcasting. Broadcasting this week from the Stark Tower, we bring you the information the anti-creationists don't want you to see or hear, and we'll give glory to the Creator while doing it. You can find us at Wazooloo.com or GenesisWeek.com. I'm your host, Ian Juby. At a secret location in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, a tribe of indigenous people have lived for thousands of years. As late as the 1940s, foreign explorers who had contacted this tribe reported the tribal members spoke of a large creature living in that area whose description sounded like no other creature known there, but certainly matched the description of the long-necked dinosaurs, the sauropods. Vance Nelson received a hot tip about Indian pictographs in this region, which may shed light on the stories. Vance teamed up with Harry Nyborg, owner of Canada's first permanent creation museum, the Big Valley Creation Science Museum, and together they ventured down to the Amazon rainforest. Vance is the author of the Untold Secrets of Planet Earth series, and his incredible book from that series entitled Dire Dragons is an eye-opening book examining dinosaurs in ancient artwork. Vance joins me by Skype today. Welcome to the show, Vance.
Good to be here.
So, okay, I got to see the clips. It was pretty impressive, but help me out with the viewers here. What exactly did you find, and how did you find it?
Okay, well, we came across a hot tip, and that's really all I'm saying right now, about ancient artwork in the Amazon rainforest. And in particular, what appears to be a sauropod dinosaur. And so what we actually did is we enlisted the help of a local archaeologist, an expert on rock art in that area, to come along with us. He's written many papers on the subject and really knows the areas inside and out.
Okay, so after seeing this petroglyph, you're convinced then that it is authentic?
Well, there's no doubt that the professor believes it's authentic. He has also worked with other universities in bordering countries who have also come out and taken a look at the pictographs, and they also believe that they're authentic. Now, if you were to ask me personally, how do I know it's authentic? Well, first of all, we have a secular archaeologist who one would think would want to explain away any kind of evidence that people may have seen dinosaurs. But number one, he admits that the pictographs are indeed authentic. He claims over 5,000 years old. And number two, off the record, off the camera, so to speak, he admitted that this was indeed a dinosaur that somehow escaped extinction and lived beside people. Now, when we were actually there, we were able to investigate the pictographs literally from inches away. And these are the ones that I'm referring to are actually in a little cave. And the closer you get to the outside, the more that the wind and the weather and this sort of thing were able to erode the pigments that were used. And so when you take a close look closer to the outside of the cave, the pigments have been eroded away. They've been faded. And the pigments basically only remain deep in the crevices. And the further inside the cave you get, the darker the pigments become, which is what you would expect over thousands of years. Those closer to the outside would be more faded than those inside the cave. Now, the other thing that the professor points out is you have three people praying to the sun. This really isn't something that you would expect a modern faker to depict. And there's other animals that are there as well, and they're accurate, and so why wouldn't this dinosaur-like image be accurate as well? And so there's just a lot of different things. When you take a look at pictographs elsewhere in the world, such as in Australia, the Australian Aborigines, or you take a look at the Bushmen in Africa, and you take a look at those pictographs that are supposedly thousands of years old, the ones that we looked at in the Amazon are clearly just as old, if not older. They seem to be more faded. They seem to be more weathered than these other clearly authentic pictographs elsewhere on the planet.
Okay, those are some significant points there. Okay, so let's take it at face value then. How do we know what it is? How do we know it's not, say, a giant iguana? Just as a wild example.
Sure. Well, even though, Ian, these are pictographs, they're not photographs, they're not artwork, done by Leonardo da Vinci. There were limitations, because of the techniques and the artistic abilities of the artist. But nonetheless, it's easy to tell what many of these creatures are. For example, up above this dinosaur-like creature is a clear llama. There's no doubt it's a llama. Now, it's simplified, but there it is. There's a llama, alpaca, guanaco, whatever, but a camelid of some sort. And then you have people that are standing around this dinosaur, actually 9 warriors, and they're all holding spears, and one of the warriors has a spear getting ready to throw it at this creature. And when you think about modern lizards, iguanas, reptiles, whatever, it's clearly not anything that we see living today. This creature has an extremely long, thin neck, a small head, no ears on the head. There are really no living reptiles that we're aware of that have necks as long as this creature has. Further to that, this is not just some small reptile. We have the people, the 9 warriors around, which gives us an idea of scale. This is a large animal, or as the professor of archaeology says, grande, a large creature, a very large creature.
Right. So there was an exhibit that was traveling around. There's so many examples now of these dinosaurs in ancient art, and some of them quite clear depictions. I mean, they're pretty hard to mistake. So many, in fact, that the secular archaeologists are now going, okay, hold on, we got to come up with an explanation here. So, of course, there was an exhibit that was traveling around saying, well, isn't this amazing? These people must have excavated dinosaurs, much like we have.
Right.
They've excavated dinosaurs. They figured out what they looked like. But what do you think? Is that a possibility here for this pictograph?
Well, if you're talking about the ancients stumbling across certain fossils, there's no doubt that occurred. For example, in Alberta here and other places, the North American and Canadian Indians interacted with fossils, but we're talking about fairly small fossils. We're talking about necklaces being made out of fossil snails, for example, and things like this. Okay. But to suggest that the ancients excavated a full-size sauropod dinosaur, for example, that's really science fiction, not science fact. If that really did occur, where are all of the tools that they used? If you take a look at Kachina Bridge and the sauropod depicted there, there's no doubt that we have museums full of Anasazi Indian artifacts. We have the bulls. We have all sorts of things from the Anasazi Indians, museums full. Where are the special excavation tools used to excavate dinosaurs? Where are the other things like the adhesives that they would have had to use to glue the bones together? What did they use for plaster jackets? There had to be some type of organization there, because it would have taken months, years, maybe even more for these people to dig up these dinosaurs. Now, even though we have museums full of Anasazi Indian artifacts, if they did excavate dinosaurs, and that's just a belief, that's ad hoc, there's no evidence for that. If they did, surely somewhere among these Indian artifacts we would find large dinosaur bones. They must have been very important in order for them to excavate them, if we're just going along with the idea of the secularists here, and we simply don't find them. Furthermore, even if they did, by some miracle, excavate a complete dinosaur, then why do we not normally find depictions of the skeletons? You see, we actually find the depictions all over the world of fleshed-out creatures in living positions, often interacting even with humans. We find details of the skin patterns that we've just found and discovered in the fossil record in the last, 10 to 20, 30 years. And so all of these indications are telling us that people did not excavate the fossils and depict the fossils. The evidence is that they interacted with living creatures all around the planet. Now, in my book, Dire Dragons, I have 15 reasons why this idea that the ancients excavated dinosaurs is nothing more than pure mythology. Now, one major point here, if the ancients dug up the fossils and then illustrated them, drew them, depicted them, made pottery, etc., then one would expect that the particular type of dinosaur that is being depicted in ancient artwork, that particular fossil dinosaur is found in close proximity to the artwork. And often the fossils are not found in close proximity to the artwork. Often they are found on the other side of the planet. So that is a serious death blow to the idea that the ancients simply excavated them, somehow put them together. Really, it's a miracle, Ian, to suggest that.
That's a significant point. And as you mentioned in your video, you've now got a 16th point. These guys showed up with spears. You don't show up to a dinosaur dig with spears to kill the dinosaur, you know.
Exactly. They were interacting with a living, breathing creature. They were hunting this creature. They did not dig up the fossils and then try to reconstruct what it looked like.
Okay, so let's take it a step farther now. I mean, okay, maybe these guys were, you know, getting into the peyote or something, you know, depicting their hallucinations. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, besides the fact that I don't know all of the types of plants in the Amazon rainforest, let's assume that they were taking some drugs that induce some types of hallucinations. These hallucinations would be something mythological, something that didn't really exist. And as I've pointed out to skeptics time and time again, they seem to think that, well, you creationists think that if there's something depicted, they must have seen it in real life. Well, what about the Hindu god? You know, that's half elephant and half person. Did they see that too? That must be real as well. You know, sort of this mocking of us for believing that people saw them. Well, I mean, it's very simple. It's very clear, very simple to understand the difference between a real creature and a mythological creature. A real creature is something that we can match up with in the real world, that's either living or found in the real world in the fossil record. And so when we're looking at depictions of dinosaurs, it's clear that these are not mythological creatures because we have found the counterparts, though not living today, we have found examples of these types of creatures in the fossil record. We haven't found, you know, in half elephant, half person. Clearly, at least tentatively, that's mythological. So, I mean, the idea that these are just maybe mythological creatures due to hallucinations, that used to be an idea that the evolutionary atheists used to use, that many of these creatures are just mythological creatures. But the more and more we found evidence of accurate ancient depictions of dinosaurs, the more and more they've been forced to say, those really are dinosaurs, but they excavated them. And as we've pointed out, just a few reasons why that's not possible. Well, there's just no doubt that this was a real creature, just like the llama was a real creature, just like the warriors with the spears are real creatures with real weapons, and that this is actually depicted very accurately with respect to reality.
Okay, so what is your website, first of all? Actually, what is your YouTube channel? Because you now have this. You have a follow-up video on your YouTube channel. What's your YouTube username, please?
It's Science, the number 4, God. Science for God.
Science for God. So youtube.com/science4god. Okay, and you're going to have more info on the UntoldSecretsOfPlanetEarth.com website, I'm assuming,
at some
correct?
point. We're actually writing a booklet right now about the expedition, about what we found that'll show full-color pictures and details that currently is not on the YouTube production that we did. But, if you just punch in recent dinosaurs in the Amazon or recent dinosaurs in the Amazon newscast, you'll bring that up onto YouTube and you can take a look at just a little tidbit of the expedition that we had and some small pictures of this dinosaur-like creature depicted in the Amazon.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, Vance. Thanks for being on the show and sharing with us.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Vance's book, Dire Dragons, had over 20 new examples of dinosaurs in ancient artwork and was an incredibly well-done book. You can also get that from his website, UntoldSecretsOfPlanetEarth.com. Louis Jacobs was the former president for the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. In his book titled In Quest of the African Dinosaur, he pointed out that if dinosaurs and humans lived together, it would mean that the Earth is young, evolution would be falsified, and the biblical account of creation would be correct. This pictograph is only one of many, many examples that dinosaurs and humans did in fact live together. Now, if the Bible is correct about that part of history, then perhaps it is correct about our future as well. That's it for this special edition of Genesis Week. Join us again next week. I'm your host, Ian Juby, reminding you the words of Christ Jesus, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me." We'll see you on the flip side. Production software was provided for Genesis Week by the Big Valley Creation Science Museum, located just 25 minutes north of Drumheller, Alberta. Visit bbcsm.com for more details. You can help keep this program going by making a tax-deductible donation to Core Ottawa, Canada North Post Office Box 72075, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, K2K2P4.